Today in the video, I will compare two car battery chargers, but the comparison will not be only, or rather, not so much, not just two specific models of chargers, but rather two different approaches to charging batteries. I assure you, some points in this video will likely surprise you, so as they say, don't switch away. Of course, we'll check how they actually charge, using a specific battery as an example. The test with the battery took me a week of actual time, so it's definitely worth watching until the end just for that. This video is coming to an end. Well, for those interested in something specific, there are timestamps in the description, so feel free to check them out. So today, I will be comparing the automatic charger Peugeot. Just so you know, there's already a review of it on the channel, and its competitor will be the Kulon 720 charger. There's also a review on the channel, and all the links are in the description. And the first thing I would like to draw your attention to is that although I will be comparing two specific models of devices, but in general I understand what you're mostly interested in understanding whether there's a significant difference between the types of chargers. One is fully automatic, which is the Peugeot, while the Kulon, let's say, is a semi-automatic, if you can put it that way. Because there, for the most part, you need to select the voltage and current, and everything else can be handled by the automation. Of course, if you don't want to get into the details. So, we've finished with the introductions, let's get started. Right now, I won't be comparing the length, width, weight, and so on. All of this is possible. You can check out separate videos about each device. As I mentioned, all the links are in the description. From the important points, the power parameters of the devices are roughly the same, at least because the wires have the same cross-section and the plugs are rated for the same power. As for the dimensions, the automatic Chinese one is significantly smaller than our competitor, about twice the volume. Well, that's all from the general comparison, I think. Let's get to the point, the most interesting part. How they charge. For the test, I took the Omega EFB battery. It's not new. At the time of the test, it was already over 4 years old. And it works quite well, so there were no complaints about it. The electrolyte level is normal, sitting between the maximum and minimum marks, and so, what's the essence of the test? I'll try to charge the same battery under as identical conditions as possible and see what comes of it. What are the conditions? The battery is in a warm room with a temperature of about 23 degrees, both the room and the battery itself, meaning the battery has been warmed up a long time ago. With the help of a simple device, I discharged the battery down to exactly 12 volts. Just so you know, this voltage is about 30% charge. If we believe the tables from the internet, although these figures may vary a bit, well, it may vary a bit depending on the specific battery manufacturer, but let's consider it as 30%. And when I say 12 volts, I mean exactly 12 volts, neither more nor less. I discharged it to 12 volts, waited an hour, the voltage. I discharged it a bit again, waited again. And I did this for about 6 hours, until I achieved exactly 12 volts. Yes, I understand that this is not a laboratory test, but nonetheless, after that, I connected the first test subject, the Chinese automatic charger Peugeot. And actually, I left it to charge. The charger immediately recognized the battery and started charging it in a multi-stage automatic mode. Just so you know, the diagram is on your screen. Let's pause and take a look, in case anyone is interested. And after 6 hours, I got the voltage to volts. And a fully charged battery? Of course, I didn't celebrate just yet and waited 10 hours for the voltage to drop. And I got it in the end. 12,7. So, we'll consider this voltage as the final result. But I decided to wait another 2 days and see if the voltage would drop. And the answer is yes, the voltage has dropped to 1258 in volts. And here, perhaps, is this result. And it will serve as a benchmark for the Chinese charger. Now, we discharge the battery to the initial 12 volts. Everything is as before. According to the technology, we connect our semi-automatic Kulon charger and set the following values. The main charge voltage is 14.8 volts, the current is 6.5 amps, and the charging time is 12 hours. Well, just to be sure, I turned on the pre-charge, and the automatic system set the values for me, which are also displayed on the screen before charging. Again, I trusted the automatic system with the charging time of 2 hours, so in total, the charging lasted 14 hours. The charging graph, if anyone is interested, looks something like this. So, the values are not like that. This is a diagram from the user manual, but the essence is how exactly the voltage and current change and at what point this is visible on the graph. If anyone is interested, pause and take a closer look. Next, the pre-charge didn't start, and that's understandable because the voltage is already at 12 volts. The charger immediately switched to the main charging mode, then to the pre-charge mode, and in total, after the charge, we see how many amp hours we got, which is almost 31 out of a possible 65. And the charging took us 14 hours, just as I programmed it. I waited another 10 hours, and the voltage dropped to 13 on 13 volts, which is also higher than after the Chinese one. Then I waited another 2 days and got a drum roll. 1291. The Chinese one had 12.58. The temperature, by the way, was the same in all cases, room temperature. So, let's draw some conclusions. What do we have? Faxa. identified the battery, and charged it in 6 hours. It chose that time by itself. No one told it anything or pointed it out. That's what it's automatic for. In Kulon, I selected 12 hours for the main charge and 2 hours for the pulse charge. It charged just like that. Honestly, I thought the battery would charge faster and the charging would turn off. But no, in total 14 hours. Regarding the time, some might say that it is not entirely fair to compare when a charger charges for 6 hours and a charger charges for 14. That's a huge difference. But let me remind you, the automatic charger wanted to charge for exactly 6 hours. This already hides a big difference. As you can see, the difference in time yields results. It's silly to deny that. Let's move on. On automatic, the maximum I saw was 9.9 and 14.1 volts. It's possible that the maximum values were different. I can't say for sure here because I came by periodically and might have missed something. I won't argue about that. The thing is, the values were fluctuating, sometimes increasing and sometimes decreasing. The maximum I saw was like this. On the Kulon, I set the maximum voltage to 14.8 and 6.5 amps. Just so you know, the battery didn't boil, but of course, sometimes bubbles formed and rose to the surface. Not much, but there was a reaction. How did these voltage and current values affect the quality of the charge? Here, as they say, we can start arguing in the comments. So, in summary, what do we have? First, I'm not claiming to have conducted any laboratory tests, and maybe I'm wrong about something. And maybe I did something wrong. Surely some smart person will correct me in the comments. But what did I see? A simple couch expert who has done all the operations mentioned above. So, it turns out that the praised automation on the Chinese model didn't manage to handle it well, or not at all, and it couldn't charge the battery to 100%. The final charge was about 80%. It depends on which table you're looking at, but that's not the point of the conversation. But the semi-automatic, using the example of the Kulon 720, charged up to 100% just fine. Yes, it took longer to charge, and some might say that's unfair. But this is the essence of manual and semi-automatic charging, that you are free to set the values that you specifically need, specifically in a given situation, and not trust the automation. Or you can trust it, but only partially. And, as practice shows, there's a point to that. We've all seen it ourselves. So the conclusion is that field tests prove that manual charging, at least in the case of these chargers, performs better. Would I claim that Kulon 720 is a magic cure for all problems and in all batteries? Definitely not. There are other chargers out there, and I'm sure some of them are good. At the same time, in a head-to-head comparison, some say that the Kulon loses to the Impel 57. Some say the opposite. And some say that both chargers charge perfectly. It's just that the approach to charging is a little different. I just personally used this pendant, and I saw what it can do. And I like the result. And can I claim whether this charger is better or not? I obviously can't. Some people say that you should charge strictly at a certain voltage. 16 volts to make the battery boil, not 14.8. Others, on the contrary, for example, when I bought myself a battery. By the way, the video is either already on the channel or will be soon. Don't miss it. The battery is an interesting SF Sonic, supposedly an Indian equivalent of Excite, response to sanctions. And all of that. However, in my attempt to find the truth, I somehow ended up on the Excite Buy website. It says that this SF Sonic and Excite are the same thing. Yeah, alright, definitely check it out, it's interesting. But that's a topic for another video. So, the battery seller confidently told me to charge at 14.8 volts and not to go up to 16 volts. Although, I repeat, opinions on the internet are sharply divided. It's like asking what's better, diesel or gasoline. I don't even want to get into that. Well, alright, we got a bit sidetracked. The conclusion of today's experiment: a charger with multiple settings, like the Kulon 720, when set up correctly, allows you to charge the battery more effectively than a cheap fully automatic charger. If I'm wrong, and this is just a specific case, correct me in the comments. I'm a living person, I can make mistakes too. Well, that's all for today. Thanks everyone for watching, good luck on the roads, and see you later.